бейбіт шеру өтіп жатыр. 30 жыл жиналған пружина бүгін жазылды. Біз жаңа мемлекетіміздің бетін ашып жатырмыз. Соған сіздер куә болыңыздар.
Kazakhstan is on the brink of a deadly revolution that could fundamentally reshape the geopolitics of Central Asia. At the dawn of the new year, President Tokayev lifted the government's price controls on fuel, triggering unprecedented spikes in gasoline prices and a subsequent civil unrest across one of the largest oil and gas producers in the world. But peaceful protests didn't last long. Clashes between activists and authorities quickly turned violent, leaving dozens dead. On January 7th, Tokayev has publicly ordered his security forces to kill without warning. This sudden destabilization of Kazakhstan is already having a monumental impact on global affairs. The republic is a major Russian ally and gives Moscow access to the Baikonur Cosmodrome, a critical facility for the Russian space program. The civil unrest is also forcing Vladimir Putin to shift his attention away from Ukraine and divert military resources to his ally in the south. Kazakhstan is on the brink of a deadly revolution.
Tonight, the shocking new video emerging. Haitian Prime Minister and acting President Ariel Henry and his security team coming under heavy gunfire on Saturday in an assassination attempt at an event commemorating the country's Independence Day. His team can be seen trying to shield him with a bulletproof vest while scrambling to take cover behind a vehicle. Then, with gunfire still erupting, the group in a dash running to their caravan of vehicles. The car speeding away, the Prime Minister safe inside. Local media reports saying one person was fatally shot, 2 injured, but an official casualty count has not been released. The gunman still unknown. The Prime Minister's office saying that, quote, bandits and terrorists had tried to shoot Henry. This comes just months after the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse back in July by a group of armed men. Prime Minister Henry became the de facto leader of the country less than 2 weeks later. Haitian authorities have arrested 18 Colombians and 2 Haitian Americans in connection with Moïse's killing. But just this week, another suspect was detained by U.S. authorities in Panama. Gang violence, kidnappings, bloody protests over food and fuel shortages, and a devastating earthquake last year have shaken the vulnerable Caribbean nation to its core. And now another blatant attack to the country's highest office as the nation struggles to rebuild. Rahima Ellis, NBC News.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who still rule and teach well. Peace, blessings, and safety to the Lord's elect. Shalom. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So we're seeing it, we're seeing it in the uproars of the people, and I'm a little late with this information, this news, but, I still wanted to touch on it and read some scriptures dealing with it, because it's still relevant, because there's going to be more of this in different places where it's not happening now. It's going to happen in places like America, in your hometown where you're living, this insurrection. Let's get that in 2nd Ezra 15. This sedition, this is sedition that you're seeing over in Kazakhstan, okay? It said that the government has fallen, the presidents and government officials have fled the country, the protesters, the citizens have taken over the airport, and they have beheaded 13, I believe, police officers, okay? So it's not a good time to be a police officer. It's not a good time to be in this man's military, or in any national military across the world, because we're at a time where total lawlessness is about to break loose. It's about to be intensified on a high level. 2 Esdras 15 and verse 14, it says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand." And you saw them throwing rocks. They beheaded somebody, so obviously there were swords or knives being used. And these people, one thing you don't want to do is be at the mercy or the wrath of a city. And that's pretty much what happened to those police officers, man. They were consumed by an angry multitude, man. And that's one of the scariest things. Let me go to the book of Sirach, chapter 26 and verse 5. It says, "There be three things that mine heart feareth, and the fourth I was sore afraid: the slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly multitude, and in false accusation. All these are worse than death." You see, so hey, what you're seeing right now, these unruly multitudes gathering together in these cities, these things are worse than death. Why? Because they produce death. Okay, they produce death on a high level. Okay, and so that's something that you should fear. When we see these large crowds, it should be something that puts fear in our heart. When we see these people, basically acting out with no precaution for, with no thought of their consequences for their actions. When people just act out rationally and do whatever they want to do and tear up the city, that should put fear in you, because you see that there's no order. And the scripture say the course of their actions, let's go back, 2 Esdras 15, because the scripture said the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So when you see that, that should put fear in you, to know that there's no law, no order, and the unruly multitude is going to do whatever they want to do. That should put fear in us. Ecclesiasticus 26 and verse 5, "There be three things that mine heart feareth, and the fourth I was sore afraid: the slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly multitude." You see, and that's what has been taking place all across the four corners of the earth. The latest is Kazakhstan. You saw the Haitian president survived an assassination attempt, man. So that whole country is just in shambles, man. They just had a president assassinated last year, and now the new president has assassination attempts on his life. So this is why they said, verse 5, "There be three things that mine heart feareth, and the fourth I was sore afraid: the slander of a city." That's one thing you don't want. You don't want the slander of a city on you. Okay? It says, "The gathering together of an unruly multitude, and a false accusation. All these are worse than death." You see? Another one is, I believe that's Sirach 7 and 7. Let's get that real quick. It says, "Offend not against the multitude of a city, then thou shalt not cast thyself down among the people." You see, so it's not a good time to be a police officer, man, because you're pretty much going to be an offense to everybody within that city. You're pretty much going to offend everybody within that city. If you're a part of, this man's military, or, hey, if you're, pretty soon, Esau's going to paint us up to be terrorists, man. He's going to make it look like we're the bad guys, and it's going to be an offense to be a Hebrew Israelite, and we're going to have, to an extent, the wrath of the city upon us. But the Lord's going to protect us and put his hand upon us for good. Ecclesiasticus 7 and 7, "Offend not against the multitude of a city, then thou shalt not cast thyself down among the people." Yeah, like be beheaded. It's not a good time to be siding with the governments, to be worshiping the beast, to be locked in with the governments of this world. Because guess what? When the governments of this world collapse these economies and bring in the full famine, and total chaos ensues, you think these governments is going to save you police officers and you city councilmen and you pastors and you lower level people? No, you're going to be asked out. The devil's going to use you till he can't use you no more, and like a whore, he going to toss you out. 2 Esdras 15:14, woe to them that dwell therein, and for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Now, the point that I wanted to read was that there shall be sedition among men. Let's go to that word sedition. Sedition. It says rebellion, uprising, revolt, concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority. You see, and there's going to be a lot more of this. This is why the United States military is doing guerrilla warfare training in North Carolina to train to fight American citizens, to train to fight its own American citizens that might try to set up their own government. So the United States military is training to fight against these things because they know that sedition is coming. We're seeing it on a global scale. I mean, we're seeing it globally in other countries, but it's going to come to America as well. And you're getting the warning right now so that when it does come, you aren't, walking around with a chicken with your head cut off. It says sedition is from the mid-14th century. It means rebellion, uprising, revolt, concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority, violent strife between factions, civil or religious disorder, riot, rebelliousness against authority. We just saw all of that. We just saw all that on video display. Okay, taking place in Kazakhstan, taking place in Haiti. Okay, assassinations, attempts upon the king. Let's read it again, 2 Esdras 15:16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So that's how it's going down, man. These people over there is not playing around, man. And we should be able to look at these signs and know that the kingdom of heaven is near. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 32. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Hey, so when we see these things, man, when we see the tribulation, when we see the uproars of the people, when we see the commotions in the world, as it says in the book of Luke, let's get that. Luke 21, I'm going to get that in the Greek, actually. Luke 21, and I believe it's 7. Luke 21:9, it says, but when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not by and by. You see, it says, let me read it in the NLT. It says, and when you hear of wars and insurrections, an insurrection is an uprising against an authority or government. And you see this all across the world, dealing with these protests for the thing, okay? And it's going to only intensify. The Lord said, what will I if it be already kindled? The Lord is about to turn up the heat. He's going to consistently turn up the heat in this place. Luke 21:9, and when you should hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, don't be afraid, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not by and by. I mean, the end is not going to come immediately. We still got a little more time, but we're down there here. Now, this word for commotions.
Strong's G 181, akatastasia.
Atsia. It says instability, a state of disorder, you see, and it said disturbance, confusion. So these cities, these countries, basically the basic structure of these countries is going to be broken down as there's going to be a state of disorder and confusion within these various nations across the world. And we're seeing that, we're seeing that. The Lord is showing us an example of these things. you know, and this is just the beginning of the end. And it will come to America, you know, it will come to America. America is actually the cherry on top, you know. But anyway, I pray this was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, for giving me the spirit to do this lesson. Kwame Asherallah, Shalom.